This season for the Chicago Bulls has been a interesting season to say the least. You have your ups, you have your downs, as you're going to do every season. And plus, the Chicago Bulls have seen the forming of a new dynamic duo of young players that have stepped up drastically in this season. We're going to talk about two of those young players and also how the Bulls need to embrace the new core that's forming right in front of their eyes. And also, the Bulls bring back a favorite, as well as we got a game against the Boston Celtics. All that plus the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today. And so I want to talk about, and I know we've been waxing poetic a lot about Coby and Ayo this season, and their growth has just been exponential, right? It's been great. It's really been kind of the bright spot. For a while there, I said that Coby White was kind of the lone bright spot on this season for the Chicago Bulls, but it's Ayo now as well, right? And then, of course, the flashes that we've seen from Dalen Terry, the team just really stepping up for the Chicago Bulls as well, even though Billy Donovan didn't play many minutes last game. But, the question has now started rising around Bulls community is that how much can you build around Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White? And while there are a lot of Bulls naysayers, you got your people, I'm sure, going to be in the comment of this video. Well, a core with Coby on it can only go so far, which is right. You need a team to do it, right? You got the people, we absolutely still need to keep on to DeMar DeRozan. And to a degree, I can definitely understand that. But what the Bulls are seeing now in the first year, right? This is the first year that Coby has had this type of impact, that he's grown to this level of heights. You want to see how that's going to continue. Ayo Dosunmu, he's come on. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. Every month of this season, Ayo has gotten exponentially better and more refined. And even the field goal percentage, the shooting percentage, the three-point shot, those things have now, where there were questions to start off the season, have now turned into things you can pretty much bet on to be that they are legit and they're going to be able to stay that same for that team, right? This has offered the Chicago Bulls, hopefully, the front office, a new look at what the ceiling of this team could be. Yes, the Chicago Bulls started 4-15 on the season, and I think a lot of Bulls fans forget the fact that the Bulls have had the 9th best record in the entire NBA since December. And if they had avoided that slow start, we're looking at a team that would have been on pace for 45 to 46 wins. Now, on pace and in reality are very different things. Yes, the injuries have played a part. Those type of things have played a big part on it. And that's not to say that this team still doesn't have some major holes that they need to fill. But one thing that this season has now provided the Chicago Bulls that they no longer need to fill is hoping that you're going to have some young players to step up to show that they're going to be part of your core for years and years to come. Coby and Ayo have showed that this season. And I know a lot of people are going to be waiting to see, can they do it again next season? And that's absolutely fair. In sports, we've seen players have hot streaks, right, or even really good seasons, and then kind of fall off and fall back down, maybe not as where they were before. They still stay elevated, but not where they were at the heights of that season. And they're going to be all eyes. These last 12 games of the season to play in, they're going to be eyes on Ayo and Coby, especially as Coby gets back into that starting lineup to see, does this maintain? How do they play well against the other teams? We got to test tonight against the Boston Celtics. But even going into next season, those voices are probably going to get louder as fans and things have more time this offseason kind of look and second guess the growth of Coby and Ayo and things like that. You're going to see that come more and more over the course of this offseason, and that's fine. Welcome it. Because the one thing about these two young players, and the thing that more so than anything, I'm not saying that Coby and Ayo can lead you to a title. No, you still need another player to ascend. You still need a superstar level talent, right? And while Coby and Ayo have been playing great, and they even may, with how they're playing, if they can do it consistently, may reach near star level. You still generally need a superstar to truly get you to championship contention. So that's fine. That having that kind of thought process and questions around the team, perfectly fine. It's reasonable. But the thing that makes me feel so proud as a Chicago Bulls fan is these are also two of the hardest workers that we have on this team. These are two of the players that have bet on their own development. Coby going to work with his own coaches, and now Peter Patton being here, you never know. He may stay in Chicago, work out some of the summer, but we'll end up seeing what happens with that. Ayo, who stayed in Chicago because he's from Chicago and got to work, one of the first people who got to work with Peter Patton day in and day out. These players put in the work, and they also have that attitude where they aren't going to rest on what they did this season. And that is something that feels a little bit different, right? Zach LaVine has his naysayers, even though he's increased his game and turned into the offensive firepower that he turned into over the course of it, but he was still a flawed player. The basketball IQ, the decision-making down the stretch of it, every player is going to have their flaws, and Coby and Ayo have them, and they're still going to have some flaws as well. But it's something to be said about a dynamic duo forming with these two players that you can then build off things around. Theoretically, if the Bulls didn't want to have to worry about point guard and shooting guard because you got these two players, they don't have to. You can focus on the wing. You can focus on your bigs. You can focus on developing that type of thing or going out and finding that talent to help add to this. Yeah, we need some help off the bench. And I think also so many of our starters are in the so many of our bench players are in the starting lineup as well. That definitely affects it. So this has been a season of, clarity for those players, right? We had questions, and we knew that Coby and Ayo signed really team-friendly deals. But now this is your opportunity to take advantage of those deals, but also to just take advantage of the fact that you have two players now on really reasonable contracts that you can now – this offseason is going to be a little difficult. We've talked about how close up to that luxury tax the Chicago Bulls are, and that is just real. But listen, the work that's put in this offseason, the front office has to take notice of this. And also, I said it at the top, the new young core is forming, right? I'm not saying that it's a championship-level core, but it does give you a foundation, right, of young players that are all on reasonable deals. Coby, Ayo, on reasonable deals. Patrick Williams, we'll see what his contract extension looks like. Considering the injury, I think it's going to be a reasonable deal. Let's see how he increases his game. Hopefully he takes a step up this season as well. Julian has shown the mentality. You got to refine that skill, absolutely. But Julian, rookie scale deal. Arnold a team-friendly deal. Dalen Terry, rookie scale deal, right? And then on top of that, if Adama Sanogo really does turn into something that the Bulls look to use next season, that's another player on a cost-effective contract. That's a young player that, again, we're not saying that Adama Sanogo is going to come in and average 20 and 10 like he did in the G League. But I tell you what, even if Adama Sanogo can average 8 and 8 with a block and a steal per game, that's a damn good big coming off the bench for you. And he's shown more than enough reason to think that he's going to be able to do that. We just got to see if Billy Donovan and them are going to use him. So this has been an offseason of clarity for our young players, and I really love that. And you got to embrace. Hopefully, this front office embraces that clarity, and in their moves this offseason helps best support that team and see what we get in the draft pick as well. Now, outside of that, we got a return of a player, and I want to give credit to Steve-O and Kev for stepping in for me doing that live stream. But JAvonte Green is back with the Chicago Bulls on a 10-day contract. Now, outside of the excitement of having Wu back and what he meant, and he's been rehabbing down in the G League for the Golden State Warriors G League team. Good to have him back. I truly think if that injury wasn't a thing for him, we would have probably signed him to a deal this offseason. But that's come with its own naysayers as well. Why would the Chicago Bulls get another undersized player? We need size. Even somebody saying, hey, we should have went after Kevin Knox. Here's the thing that I'm going to say. It's something to be said about bringing somebody in at this point in the season, only 12 games left. If he even plays with a 10-day contract, that's not sure. If he even plays, he understands the system. He already has a chemistry with the players. You already know exactly what you're going to get out of Wu, right? And I want to add some clarity on why the Chicago Bulls probably brought JAvonte Green back. And this isn't a good one. Keep in mind, Julian Phillips went down. They already announced that he's going to be out 2 weeks. And we know that JAvonte Green played power forward for the Chicago Bulls. Now, is that probably the ideal position for him? No, but he's such a damn worker. He's going to make it work for himself there to a degree, right? And JAvonte Green's shooting was kind of suspect at times. He wasn't always consistent with hitting and knocking down the open corner threes. But you're bringing in a player that is familiar with their team, familiar with the coaching staff, right? And that is a big part. You don't have to get over any humps with that. Now, that's if JAvonte Green even plays, which I still think there's a slight chance of him even playing with this team. I think this is more a deal to set up something maybe for the offseason in case the Bulls, keep in mind, the Bulls are right up against the luxury tax. JAvonte Green could be a cost-effective contract to bring back for you next in this offseason as well. So the Bulls really allowed JAvonte Green to go out and get himself a deal to get paid, right? Because they wanted to use their two-way contracts on younger players. He got paid all throughout the season. He got to rehab his injury, be in the G League. I think he played, 13 games in the G League, 11, 13 games in the G League. And now that he's healthy and seemingly ready to go, he comes back home. And that's really what this is. And so we'll see what this means for the long one. Like I said, if he even ends up playing for the Chicago Bulls this season. But again, I just wanted to add some clarity on why they may bring him back. And we already know Billy Donovan does love JAvonte Green. So we'll see what turns out with that. I'll tell you what, I'd rather JAvonte Green be getting minutes than Javon Carter with how he's performed for us. So that's just my own thought process. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but I wanted to kind of just add a little bit of clarity on to what Steve-O and Big Kev gave you guys when they talked about it yesterday. So yeah, I think JAvonte Green, he's coming back. He's coming back mainly to kind of, if Julian Phillips doesn't come back, he gives you some energy, he gives you some rebounding. Even at his size, he can do that. He gives you some defense as well. And so let's see if JAvonte Green's healthy and if he's going to get back on the court for the Chicago Bulls. But all right, with that said, we got a game tonight against the Boston Celtics, and this is going to be, it's going to suck. This is unless the Bulls come in with a great game plan. The problem with this is the Boston Celtics are the second in offense in the NBA. They're averaging 121 points per game. They're first in three-point attempts. They take 42.6 three-point attempts per game. And they hit that at the second best clip in the NBA at a 39% clip. They're also the second best rebounding team in the NBA, and they're the second best at limiting turnovers by their offense. Then when you flip it on defense, you don't get much relief there. They're the sixth best defense in the league, only allowing 109 points per game. They're second in blocks. And the one thing that you can look at is they do give up a lot of offensive rebounds. They're actually third in the league at giving up the most offensive rebounds to opposing teams. So maybe that's something the Bulls can wiggle their way into. But this is going to be a tough game for the Chicago Bulls. And they're going to have to be locked in offensively and defensively. They have to come out trying to set a tone physically with this Boston Celtics team. And that means getting on the boards. We have to rebound as a team in this game. The defense has to be on point. They don't turn the ball over, right? We know that we have players in Ayo and Alex Caruso that play the passing lanes well. They get a lot of deflections. We're going to need every bit of that to disrupt this Boston Celtics offense. And defensively, if we can rebound the ball well and attack them in transition, that's going to be the thing before that defense sets up. The length on that defense, the skill that they have, this is going to be an extremely tough matchup for the Chicago Bulls, and especially a Bulls team that's already playing small, right? Listen, guarding Jason Tatum, guarding Jaylen Brown is already a difficult enough matchup. When you add in the size of Kristaps Porzingis to that, the way that Derek White's been playing this season as well, you still got like Drew Holiday in that team as well. This is a very difficult team to beat, and that's why they have the point differential and the record that they have in the NBA right now. The Bulls cannot afford to allow big runs go unanswered in this game. If you do, this game will get away from you, and you will lose this game. That's it. They have 56 wins already on the season. The first team to officially clinch a playoff spot this season. This is going to be a tough matchup, and let's hope that the Bulls can stay locked in well enough and execute well enough down the stretch of this game to put themselves in a position to win it. Let's hope that that's the case, man. Let me know what you guys think on all the topics down below. But let's go ahead and get into the mailbag for today. It is Saturday, so that means it's mailbag day. We got 5 voicemails we need to get into. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Haize? This is Shay. Look, man, I'm not trying to make any excuses, but I've been thinking about why we've been losing big leads and why we haven't been, and why we've had to battle back and why we had to, haven't been able to sustain a lot of leads. Look, we have a lot of injuries, so guys coming off the bench are playing starter roles. That's one reason, but when you look at this team from Ayo Dosunmu, when you look at this team from Coby White Ayo Dosunmu, we have a lot of young guys on this team. Hell, our second-year player didn't play much in his first year, so this is basically his revived rookie season. We have a rookie in Julian Phillips who's still learning. We have a guy in Coby White. Let's face it, in clutch games throughout his career, he lost a lot of them because he was playing on bad Chicago Bulls teams. And Ayo, who's still learning. I mean, the only person that's been in clutch games where they've actually won them more times than I have been Demar DeRozan and Vooch and Caruso. You know what I'm saying? So when you have guys who really don't understand what it is, what it means to, how to close out games and, still kind of learning, honestly, this is a learning process for majority of the team because a lot of the team I feel with young guys, and then you have a lot of injuries, and then you have a lot of guys that are really trying to find their way into the NBA. That's gonna come with some struggles, along with not holding on to big leads, and I think that plays a big factor, with the age of this team, because it's like it or not, this is a fairly young team, even with Andre Drummond, Vooch, DeMar, and Caruso. Guys like Benham, Dosunmu, White, Phillips, Terry, all of them are still trying to find their way and trying to find out how they fit into the NBA. And And I think that, that comes with us losing a lot of leads. They're still trying to find their way. It'd be different if this was like a veteran team, and you know what I'm saying? But hey, that's just my take on it. You may have something different. Anyway, tell me what you think.
I think youth definitely plays a factor in the Chicago Bulls not being able to maintain leads, right? You have players that are stepped and thrust into roles that haven't really done that. I think also just the limitations of the team. The defensive limitations of this team definitely play a part in that as well. We aren't a good pick and roll defending team, right? Now that's because of the guards, that's because of Vooch, right? There's a lot of reasons why that happens, and also playing undersized, right? And our inability to guard the three-point line. Those things overlapping on top of youth and players that, while we have a good clutch record, right, in clutch games, but, you talk about giving up leads and things like that, that all plays a huge factor into that. And so, they're going through their growing pains now. Let's hope they learn on this and they can build off of it in the next season, because if you can shore up, if the Bulls did not give up so many double-digit leads that they've had that ended up turning into losses, that's another thing on top of the slow start that drastically changes the Chicago Bulls record this year. So let's hope that we can find a way to start doing that over these last 12 games, especially in the play-in, and then we can build off on that next season as well, so we don't have those same mistakes next season, because that's just a killer. Great voicemail there, Shay. Let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Casual Kelder.
Yo, it's me again. I've been busy for a while. I thought I'd check in, let you know what's really going on here with the Bulls. Actually, I had a question. I'm not actually displeased with them this year. They're not good, but they have been entertaining. There has been some good things, and all you can ask is for a team to go forward. And they seem to have made some steps in a plan to go forward, which is a good thing. I do think, and I want to know what your thoughts about this. The thing that concerns, this is about DeMar DeRozan. I don't really think he should sign a high dollar contract. I mean, if you want to bring him back, if it's not too much, but I don't like this thinking that the Bulls did, and the rest of the NBA is starting to catch up to this. But this thing where you have to keep the asset. So you can't lose the asset. So that's how you end up with Nikola Vucevic paying extra money when you overpaid for Vucevic, and he's declining. I know he does some good things. He's declining, but he does cap what you can do, and he does not. You have to play a certain way with him to cover his weaknesses, and his strengths aren't good enough to carry you past, where they are right now. I think DeMar DeRozan is going to be about the same thing. You can't just keep him, just keep the asset, and he's going to cap you. And I hope that they can be a little more creative with this assets that they have, so you don't get stuck having a big, giant contract like Zach LaVine's with a guy who doesn't want to be there anymore, might be breaking down physically, and really is coming off a bad year and gets worse. And now you're stuck with a guy for a big contract. I do think that could happen with DeMar. I do think they should move on from him in the off season. To kind of just let things move past what they are now and maybe give some sort of upside in the next few years. I don't know, let me know what you think. Bye.
All right, the Bulls can't just keep DeMar, Zach, to keep an asset, and I get what you're saying with that. Do I think the Bulls will move on from DeMar this offseason? I think there's a chance of it. I think when you look at not having and again, they didn't have a contract extension locked in with Vooch either. They stopped talking contract extension. They didn't want the distraction. They ended up signing him before free agency opened. So that doesn't necessarily guarantee the fact that they kind of cut off contract negotiations that a deal can't get done. But I do think that may point towards how different the sides are right now on what a good deal looks like for both parties. So we'll end up having to see what that turns into for the team. I think ultimately they want DeMar to come back. I have my issues with that for whatever it is, for what that's worth, I should say. But I think that at some point, this Bulls team also needs to realize if DeMar does walk, it's not the worst thing. And I know a lot of Bulls fans say, you got to keep DeMar. You can't let DeMar go. And I've even said it, right? DeMar's done everything as far as his play on the court to deserve a contract extension. But there's something to be said that you got to take your chance of sinking or swimming with your guys. And DeMar, we're not going to build a championship team by the time DeMar's here, right? You can say that about a lot of players. But I think there's something if you go into next season without DeMar DeRozan, you get a true chance to look at your young guys. You have no excuses there, right? DeMar is also helping inflate that Bulls record, right? So if you have that, you really get a chance to look and you can see, all right, are these guys really building blocks, or was DeMar really kind of being a safety net for them as well as the coach? And then you can make your move on how drastic you need to get in the next offseason. And with the Bulls, not this draft, but next year's draft, having their pick being top 10 protected, if DeMar does walk and the Bulls end up that we find out that the young players ain't like that, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, especially in an extremely deep draft in 2025. But let me know what you guys think on that. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one is from Reginald.
Hey, hey, this is Reginald from Columbus, Georgia. I was just thinking about, the future of the Bulls, and I gotta agree with you and Pat about how Ayo and Coby are like great building blocks, and how guys like Julius Phillips, Dalen Terry, and maybe Pat Will could possibly, contribute greatly to this team in the future. But that also got me thinking about the veterans that's on this team now. Like, I think Andre Drummond is going to walk away for nothing. And I think even if they do a silent trade with DeMar or they trade Zach LaVine, the teams that have the guys that I think would help this team also play the positions that our young guys play in. For instance, is there a way to make deals that won't hinder Julian Phillips or Dalen Terry or P. Will? Is there a way to, how do you thread that needle? And if you do make a deal that, make this team better overall and the younger guys can't, fight through, is that really a bad thing? Because while I would rather see our young guys, get those men and get a shot to prove themselves, this is winning is what matters. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing those guys, get their shot. But if I had to choose between them getting their shot or making the playoffs, and I'd rather choose making the playoffs. And when I also look around at the teams in the East, I'm just watching the Celtics, literally beat the crap out of the Bucks. And Giannis being like, y'all don't prove to me that you're trying to compete now. We're going to have to talk about our future. I'm looking at this and like, the Bucks ain't it. So what does that mean for Giannis? What does that mean for the NBA East? There's a lot of questions to be asked, and I know I put a lot out there, but I really like to hear your opinion on those matters. Thanks.
Ayo and Coby, yeah, they're definitely building blocks with the other young players that have stepped up. That's kind of how I opened the show. And I love what you said. They're making deals to not limit the role of the young players. And that's kind of what I got into with Kelder's voicemail, right? Is that I get it. And I understand the thought process of keeping DeMar DeRozan here, keeping Andre Drummond here, right? And I get that. The way that they've played, they deserve it. But you have to ask yourself, and this is my biggest thing with this Bulls team, is that they're afraid to take a step back momentarily to take a longer step forward. And that fight to keep these veterans around may end up being the undoing of the team. But we'll see. Like I said, I don't want to knock, because this isn't to knock DeMar, it's not to knock any veterans. But I do think that in the moves that the Bulls team make this offseason, it does have to be, hey, let's help support these guys. That's what I hope, at least, Reginald. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one is from Todd.
Hey, what up, man? It's Todd. It's been a minute. Hope all is well. Calling in, man, to talk about two things. First off, AK, and again, what we're going to be doing in this off season. And I just want to say one thing. So we've gotten, right? Continuity, competitiveness. But I need this man to start thinking contention. And then the next season, championship, if we're going to go with these C words, because he's good at not doing the obvious thing. And sometimes that works in the case of Joker, but we're Chicago, and we don't fuck with all that hope and the dream shit, right? We like sure things. Michael Jordan, Walter Payton, Derrick Rose. And I don't believe that AK understands that about our city. Yeah, he hit one time on the Joker, but now he's gambling, I feel like, too much with this franchise. But we'll see what he does with this pick. And that gets me to my next point. I know you're big on Filipowski from Duke, and I am too. If we can get him, great. We need a 7-footer, 250, 2-shot blocks, 2 shots a game, all of that. But I also want you to look at Tyler Smith from G League Ignite. Rim running, 6'11", got a sweet, perfect stroke. Looks like he can do everything on all 3 levels on offense. I think we could teach up his defense a little bit more. He's already, got some of that in place, but his footwork is fantastic. He reminds me of a few different, new age bigs, new NBA style bigs where he can step out and hit the 3, he can take you off the dribble and so forth. I'm just worried, does he play big? So I wanted to get your opinion on Tyler Smith, if you've taken a look at him, what you think the upside, the ceiling is, and so forth, because I'm really interested. If Filipowski is gone, maybe he's the next guy up for us to get big, because we definitely need to get a big man in this draft. We cannot get another 6'6" guard. All right. Hope all is well, bro. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Talk soon.
Listen, and that's the thing. You mentioned Mike, you mentioned Peyton. Those guys weren't sure things when we drafted them. And that's the thing. And that's the microwave mindset that I talk about that a lot of fans have is just like, oh, we need another Michael. We need another D Rose. Like it's not sure things. Nothing is sure things. And you have to build organically, right? And that's one of the things that this front office, and they said they wanted to build through the draft. They immediately brought in agent Nikola Vucevic, signed DeMar DeRozan in that following offseason, things like that. Like, there's something to be said about where this team would have been. We probably would have been around the same area if you let those young players develop. And I think that's the thing. Is this front office ready and willing to take a hit first to maybe take a longer step forward for down the road? And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Now, as far as Tyler Smith, I love Tyler Smith. Now, the thing is, somebody's going in the lottery, and Tyler Smith is projected to go kind of right outside that lottery. I wouldn't mind him at all. I don't think he can play center at the next level. Maybe small ball center if he adds some bulk. I think he's more geared towards a power forward, which isn't, let me make sure to say, that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's 6'11", 215 pounds. You want to see him fill out that frame. Like you said, athleticism out the wazoo, some shot blocking ability there. He has a lot of talent, and we'll definitely be diving into that heavily in the offseason as well. But yeah, he's definitely on my board of prospects to look out for the Chicago Bulls for sure. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for today. This one is from Thomas.
What's going on? Thomas from DC. I have a quick question, and, this might be more of an off-season thought question, and totally okay if you choose to wait until after the season's over to answer this. But just thinking about your last couple of videos as it pertains to Ayo and Coby, potential backcourt, and how the Bulls may be building towards the future. I know it's going to start heating up again about Zach LaVine possibly being moved in the off season and whether the likelihood that could happen or not. But with the difficulties of Zach's contract and trying to get some realistic resources back, in your opinion, what realistic teams out there? Because I'm not sure there's a list of 10 teams that might be buying for his services, maybe like 3 to 5, but what are some reasonable thoughts of a few teams that you think that he could actually be moved to based on potential off-season situations? And like I said, might have to wait and think about this question again after the off season, especially based on how the playoffs turn out. But just a thought that I had on my mind.
Zach LaVine realistic destinations. Here's what I'm going to say. How you ended it is perfect. I don't think we'll fully know into seeing how teams kind of strike out in the playoffs. One team that definitely is going to be on board for, I think, anything is the Philadelphia 76ers. They only have 3 players under contract for next season. They're going to have upwards of, I think, $80 million in cap space. And while they're going to gear towards the top free agents first, if they strike out on all those free agents, which is probably limited, they're going to be players that want to play with Joel Embiid and take the money the Philadelphia 76ers have to offer. But if for some reason they strike out, I can see them pivoting towards Zach LaVine. Not to say that but then in that case, you're not really getting players back, right? They're going to absorb most of that salary into that, and maybe you get some picks, right? Some future heavily protected picks, something like that. So they're definitely somebody to look out for. I think that then the Clippers also, if they lose Paul George, could be another team to look out for as well. But we won't know that list for sure until the offseason comes and to see how teams strike out in playoffs, what they do in the draft, and then that picture starts becoming a little bit more clear potentially for the Chicago Bulls and the future of Zach LaVine. But great voicemail there, Thomas. But that's the time for today, guys. I'll be back tonight. Pre-game, halftime, and post-game shows all live on the channel tonight. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.